Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. We start today's video with a McDonald's worker who followed the rules a little too well. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Employees are not allowed to leave the break room on their break. Whatever. This happened a few years ago when I worked at McDonald's. The one I worked at was near a bunch of schools, so most of the staff was high school kids. A summer vacation started. We began having the trouble of an employee getting break and then spending their break eating their meal and conversating with their friends who were still working in the kitchen. It was having a seriously bad effect on productivity as well as posing quite a few health risks, so our manager finally initiated a rule that if you were on your break, you couldn't leave the break room until your break was over. This went swimmingly until the kids went back to school. We then had a new problem. Short staffing during break cycles meant our ticket times would skyrocket during rushes. Management lifted the rule so that employees on break could clock in early and help out with the rush. However, the district manager didn't like the implications of employees working shortened or no break shifts and forcefully reinstated the rule. They also doubled down by saying that employees who tried to work during their scheduled break would be written up and/or terminated for doing so. The date was 4/20, a day when nobody wants to be working at any fast food place, much less McDonald's. We'd been getting slammed so hard from the open of the store that we called in extra help from other stores, including the regional and district managers. As the break cycle began, the management was pleased with the sub-2-minute ticket times they'd managed to maintain. A few breaks through, and we were managing well. Then came my break. As soon as I sat down to eat, someone came into the store and ordered 47 double quarter pounders. This was right after the Fresh Initiative where all quarter pounders were made fresh, so this was already a minor panic. Immediately after that order, someone at the drive-thru ordered 75 20-piece nugget meal. The amount of panic in the kitchen was palpable. I was comfortably lounging in a chair, browsing my phone, and enjoying my meal while the kitchen struggled to keep up with the orders. As ticket times began to soar, the management did exactly as I expected. District manager came into the break room and demanded me to end my break early and help in the kitchen. My response was very simply, "I'm sorry, but according to the rules you made, I can be written up or terminated for completing your request." I then continued browsing my phone, trying to enjoy the last 10 minutes of my break. The regional manager entered the room and said that he would personally terminate me if I didn't do the thing that I wasn't supposed to do. The other employee who was on break with me immediately rose and clocked in despite still having 10 minutes left on her break. She was written up for breaking the rule after the shift was over, so I felt good sitting in my chair and continuing to ignore them. In the aftermath, the people who made the giant orders took what was made after half an hour and left with refunds for the unmade food, nearly $150 each. Customers who were waiting for smaller orders were compensated with gift cards for their patience, yet many walked out without even getting their orders. We paid out nearly $1,500 in gift cards. Because customers were walking out on orders without collecting them, we had nearly $5,000 in food waste that night. All the closers went home with nearly 2 bundle boxes of burgers, fries, and nuggets. Regional and district manager were moved to a different region. The rule was edited to say that you were able to clock back in early at the manager's discretion in the event of a rush. Because I was the only employee who held his ground against the regional and district managers during the rush, I was rewarded with free meals and drinks until I moved away from my hometown and couldn't eat at that McDonald's anymore. Although when I come to visit friends, I occasionally get rung up a manager discount by a few employees who still remember me. Your manager should have refused to fill such large orders. Every reasonable restaurant has some sort of, if your order is more than 8 people's worth of food, you'll have to call it in advance rule. And our second story. How my staff trolled me into the Ice Age. This happened earlier today at work. For context, I manage a bar/restaurant. It was one of those long weekends where the entire staff, including myself, was already running on fumes before the shift even started. You could see it in everyone's faces, the collective, let's just get through this attitude. Unfortunately, the day had barely begun, and we had hours to go before the finish line. On my way in, I stopped at the gas station to grab reinforcements. I picked up 2 energy drinks and a Powerade, planning to ration them out strategically. The first energy drink was my starter pistol. The second, along with the Powerade, was my backup plan for when the mid-shift crash inevitably came for me. Not wanting them to get warm, I did what any sane person in my position would do, tucked them into the canned beer well to keep them nice and frosty. While placing them, though, I noticed something less than ideal. There was barely any ice in the wells, and we were already open for business. That's a no-go in this line of work. Warm beer equals angry customers, and angry customers equals stress none of us had the bandwidth for today. So like I've done 100 times before, I walked over to my bartenders and said, "Hey guys, beer wells are looking a little light on the ice. Let's get some more in there so everything stays cold." Their response? A few exasperated sighs and groans that sounded way more dramatic than necessary. One bartender rolled his eyes in that "I knew this was coming" way. Another muttered, "Ugh, fine," under his breath. And a third gave me the look of a kid who just got told to clean his room. But despite the attitude, it was good-natured. We're a pretty relaxed crew most of the time, as long as the essentials get done. Still, I wasn't about to let them off without a little nudge. I pulled out my best disappointed dad face, the one reserved for when the staff needs reminding that, yes, I am technically in charge here. I leaned on the counter and said, "Come on, guys, y'all know the drill, ice the wells." They grumbled a little more, but I could tell they'd take care of it, and honestly, I didn't think much about it after that. Fast forward 5 hours into the shift. The bar's busy, my legs are tired, and the energy drink I had earlier is wearing off fast. Time for round 2. I head over to the canned beer well, fully expecting to grab my drink and carry on. What I found instead was an art installation. There in the corner where I had carefully placed my backup energy drink and the Powerade was a mountain of ice so tall and dramatic it could have been a tourist attraction. Picture the Himalayas, but condensed into a single beer well. It was like someone had taken my earlier request way too literally and then turned it into a practical joke. As soon as I approached, the bartenders burst into laughter. One of them doubled over, nearly spilling a cocktail shaker. Another pointed at me with tears in his eyes, gasping out, "We iced the wells, boss, just like you said." Sure enough, the rest of the well looked perfectly normal, just the right amount of ice, product sitting neatly chilled. But my corner, it had become the icy summit of Mount Everest, with my poor energy drink and Powerade buried deep inside like unlucky climbers lost to the elements. I stood there for a second, torn between being exasperated and impressed. On one hand, they had technically done what I asked. The wells were iced. On the other hand, they had very deliberately singled out my stash for overkill. I crossed my arms, gave them the same mock disappointed look I'd used earlier, and said, "Really? You turned my drinks into a glacier?" One bartender, still laughing, replied, "You told us to ice it down. We didn't want your drinks getting warm." The others howled with laughter again, and honestly, I couldn't even be mad. It was just the kind of harmless, clever mischief that keeps morale alive during long, draining shifts. Instead of being annoyed, I just shook my head, grabbed the ice scoop, and started digging out my drink like a miner searching for treasure. By the time I finally freed it, I had to admit they got me good. And if nothing else, at least I knew my backup plan was guaranteed to stay ice cold. And our last story. Karen threw an unauthorized pool party and got herself banned after calling the cops on me. Last summer, I was assigned lifeguard duty at the neighborhood pool. Normally, it wasn't too bad. A few families, some kids, the usual sunscreen smell and squeals. But this day, I swear, it could have been a scene from a riot documentary. I walked in and immediately froze. 40 kids. 40. Screaming, shoving, diving on top of each other, super soakers spraying people in the face, and parents sloshing around with plastic cups of cheap wine like it was a frat party. And of course, the ringleader was Karen. As I was still trying to clock in, Karen stormed up, red-faced and barking, "Karen, the deck is disgusting. My friends are having a birthday party and this place looks like a dump. Get the blower and clean it, now." I tried to explain I needed to set my bag down first, but she literally shoved the pump room door open, nearly smacking me with it, grabbed the blower, and thrust it into my arms. So there I was, trying to blow debris off the deck while toddlers ran underfoot with pizza plates, drunk parents staggered across my path, and teens shoved each other into the pool. My whistle was useless. I may as well have been blowing into a kazoo. I called my supervisor for backup. Me. Hey, I'm at the nightmare pool. The motor's down, the deck's chaos, and Karen's demanding I vacuum. Supervisor groaning. Is it Karen again? She's been calling nonstop. Look, the owner's on the way with the part. I'll try to send someone with the power vac, but you're basically in hell until then. Good luck. Not exactly comforting. Meanwhile, Karen wasn't satisfied. Karen, skim the pool. These kids don't want to swim in trash water. She said this while 40 kids were literally fighting over floats and dunking each other underwater. It got dangerous fast. One kid shoved another off the diving board while a third was trying to climb up. Another kid belly flopped onto a float and nearly knocked a toddler under. I blew the whistle and yelled, "Everyone out! Party's over until you can listen." Cue Karen shrieking across the pool. Karen, you can't talk to my guests like that. They're having fun. If you can't handle it, maybe you shouldn't even be here. I snapped back, if I leave, half your kids will be in the ER in 20 minutes. That's when she dialed her phone. 5 minutes later, 2 squad cars pulled up. Karen actually called the cops on me, claiming I was endangering children by blowing the deck with a gas blower and verbally abusing kids. The officer walked over, clearly annoyed already. Officer, what's going on here? Before I could answer, Karen launched into a tirade. This lifeguard is lazy, rude, and refused to clean the pool properly. My son almost drowned because of him. I want him removed. I calmly pulled out my phone, opened the pool security app, and showed the officer's video. Karen shoving the blower at me, kids roughhousing, and parents ignoring them while drinking. The officer turned to Karen. Ma'am, your party's out of control. If your guests don't leave now, we'll be citing you for reckless endangerment. Her jaw dropped. She tried to argue, but the cops weren't having it. They told her flat out, pack it up or we start writing tickets. So, red-faced and fuming, Karen had to herd 40 sugar-hyped kids and a bunch of drunk adults out of the pool area. Her friends looked mortified, muttering about how she ruined the party. When they left, the place looked like a landfill. Soggy pizza boxes, melted cake smeared on tables, juice pouches everywhere. The cops even made her come back with a trash bag to clean it up before they'd leave. And me? I sat in the lifeguard chair watching Karen pick up soggy paper plates while muttering curses under her breath. The whole neighborhood now knew she'd thrown an unauthorized, dangerous party, and she wasn't allowed to book the pool for private events anymore. Sweet, sweet karma. Calling the cops? What the hell, lady? But it makes the payoff even better. The officers watching the footage, realizing you were the only adult in the whole mess actually doing your job, and then turning on her? Priceless. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.